Hi.
Hi there. Welcome back to English for Specific Purposes. We are your hosts. I'm Mr. Deril and this is...
And I'm Miss Thatya. მოგესალმებით. კეთილი იყოს თქვენი დაბრუნება ჩვენს ტელესკოლაში. მე თათია ვარ, ეს კი დერილია. And today's lesson, what is the topic of today's lesson, Mr. Deril?
Something new, something exciting.
And medicine. My favorite one.
Yes, we'll find out.
Medicine. Okay, but before we move to the lesson, I think that we have to look at our agenda. What's on our agenda today, Mr. Deril?
Well, as you know, we normally start with an introduction, a discussion that we have, and then we move to vocabulary related to the reading text. We read the reading text, we ask some questions, we move on to grammar after that, and then wrap it all up and hand out some homework.
Okay. გაკვეთილს მცირე შესწავლით დავიწყებთ, შემდეგ შევისწავლით მედიცინასთან დაკავშირებულ ახალ სიტყვებს. წავიკითხავთ ტექსტს, რომელიც ასევე მედიცინასთან არის დაკავშირებული, შემდეგ განვიხილავთ გრამატიკას, ამას მოყვება გაკვეთილის შეჯამება და საბოლოოდ დავასრულებთ საშინაო დავალებით. Okay, let's get started. Okay, I look forward to starting talking about medicine.
There's some connection that you have. You have this love for medicine. What is it?
Yeah, I really... First of all, I have my family members are doctors. My grandmothers used to be doctors. My mother is also a doctor. Yeah, my uncle is also a doctor. So I think that I'm closely connected with this profession. And my dream profession was also to become a doctor, which did not come true. So I have some very close connection with this area, and I would willingly talk about it and learn more about medicine. Before we move on to the vocabulary, I want to ask you a very, very common question, and this is: how often do you visit your doctor for a checkup, Mr. Deril?
Well, not very often. I'd say once a year.
Really? As for me, I usually don't go to the doctor very often. It's something I usually try to avoid, really. So maybe once in 2 years, which is not a good thing, I think, right?
You really should go more often. You need to do blood tests, you might have to do x-rays. There's a reason why people go to doctors. You want to pick up something that might be wrong early, so that it can be prevented.
Yes, I know that if the disease is detected at the early stage, then it's easier to cure, right?
So why don't you go to the doctor?
So I will, I promise. Now let's move on and let's study some words connected with medicine. And the first word we have is remedy. Remedy is a noun, and in Georgian it is medicamenti, სამკურნალო საშუალება. Okay, and how would you define that word, Mr. Deril?
A remedy is a way of curing an illness or dealing with a problem successfully.
Okay, remedy, it's a noun, and in Georgian it is translated as medicamenti, სამკურნალო საშუალება. And here we have an example. This is an effective herbal remedy for headaches. It's very good when the remedy is herbal, right?
Natural.
Because it's less harmful.
Perhaps, but it is more natural and people like that a bit more.
Yeah, okay. And what is the next word, Mr. Deril?
It's a verb, to cure, to cure.
To cure is a verb, and in Georgian it means განკურნება. And just how would you define that word, Mr. Deril?
This is what your grandmothers would have been doing. They would have been trying to make someone healthy again.
Okay. So to cure, a verb, and in Georgian it is translated as განკურნება. And here we have a very good example. At one time, doctors could not cure people of TB, but now they can cure people of TB, right?
And it saved a lot of lives.
Yeah, okay. And what is the next word we have, Mr. Deril?
Ointment. Ointment.
Ointment is a noun, and in Georgian it's translated as μάλαμο. Mr. Deril, I need your help again.
It's a thick substance that contains medicine in it. So it's kind of, not a liquid, but it's a kind of thick substance you can rub onto a place of that's hurt or wounded.
Maybe on injuries.
On an injury, yes, exactly.
Okay, ointment is a noun, and in Georgian it is malamo. And our example is the following. We put some ointment and a bandage on his knee. So if the knee is injured, I think that it's a good idea to put ointment on it, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And the next word is
painkiller. Painkiller.
Painkiller is a noun, and in Georgian it's translated as "kibil gamaguchebel." So the word gives us the hint. If it kills the pain, it means that you are relieved of pain if you drink these pills, right?
You're right. It takes away pain from you. Sometimes like a headache or even physical pain.
Okay. Painkiller, a noun, and in Georgian it is "kibil gamaguchebel." And here is an example. If you have a headache, you should take some painkillers. Yeah, some people like taking painkillers.
Sometimes too much.
Sometimes too much, okay. Which I don't approve of.
Yeah, you're the doctor.
Okay. And what is the next word we have, Mr.
Transfusion. Transfusion.
Transfusion is a noun, and in Georgian it is gadaskhma. Siskhlis an medikamentis. Okay, transfusion. And how would you define that word, Mr. Dero?
Well, it's the process of adding an amount of blood to the body of a person or animal, or the amount of the blood itself.
Okay, so transfusion, a noun, and in Georgian it's translated as gadaskhma. And here we have an example. He suffered kidney failure and needed a blood transfusion. So doctors can do everything now. Lots of health problems can be solved by doctors nowadays.
They're as amazing as engineers.
Yeah, really. Okay, and I think that we have finished with the first set of vocabulary, and it's time to practice the words. So we have definitions and words, and we have to match the definitions with the right words.
Why don't you go first? I will ask you.
Yes, I'm always ready, as you know.
You're always ready,
okay?
yes, that's right.
Let's start.
The process of adding an amount of blood to the body of a person or animal, or the amount of blood itself.
Okay, I have learned the word. This is transfusion. So, the process of adding an amount of blood to the body of a person or animal, or the amount of blood itself, is called transfusion. Okay, and now you will try. A successful way of curing an illness or dealing with a problem or difficulty. What do you think would go here?
You know what? I would say it's a remedy.
And you are right, Mr. Dero. A successful way of curing an illness or dealing with a problem or difficulty is remedy.
So it can be used outside of a medical context, in just an ordinary situation. If you've got the remedy to a problem, you've got the cure for the problem.
Yes, you're right. Okay.
Here's your sentence.
Yes, I'm ready.
To make someone with an illness healthy again.
Yes. So doctors do it, right? They cure patients. So I would say cure would be the best word here. So to make someone with an illness healthy again is to cure.
You almost were doing that.
Yes, okay. And the next task, 2 words, 1 definition. I'll read the definition for you and you will choose the right word. So a thick substance, usually containing medicine, that is put on the skin where it's sore or where there is an injury in order to cure it. So what is it?
It's the funny sounding word, ointment.
Yes, you're right. So we said that ointment is a good thing when we have injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Injury. So a thick substance, usually containing medicine, that is put on the skin where it's sore or where there is an injury in order to cure it is called ointment.
And the last one, it's obvious.
The easiest.
A drug that is used to reduce physical pain or remove it is a painkiller.
Painkiller, right. Okay, and I think we have finished with the first set of vocabulary, and it's time to move to reading.
You know, you as a teacher right now, you do curing. You cure students of their ignorance, maybe?
Yes, maybe yes. So somehow the profession of a doctor and teacher might have something in common. So first of all, you deal with people. and you try to help people. So in the first case, you help them physically and with their physical problems, and when you are a teacher, you help them like to develop their to develop intellectually, to give them the right way in life. So teachers do a lot of things, I think. Okay, a lot of good things to people, right?
I should call you Dr. Thათია.
Okay, now I think that it's time to move on to the second section, which is a reading, as we said. But before we read a text, I think that we have to learn some words to make it easier for us to understand the text. And let's look at the set of vocabulary we have here. And what is the first word, Mr. Dare?
Prescription. It's kind of difficult to pronounce, but it's prescription.
Prescription is a noun, and in Georgian it's translated as ექიმის მიერ გამოწერილი რეცეპტი. So we often get prescriptions from doctors, okay? So we go to the doctors, and after careful examination, they usually give us prescription, right?
Prescription, often you have difficulty understanding what the doctor has written. They're famous for having terrible handwriting. But a prescription is a piece of paper that a doctor has written on what you need to buy from the pharmacy in order to become better.
Right. So prescription, it's a noun, and in Georgian it's translated as ექიმის მიერ გამოწერილი რეცეპტი. And here we have an example. You need doctor's prescription to get some medicine in the pharmacy. Yeah, it's right, because sometimes you cannot buy whatever you want in the pharmacy because you need special prescription, doctor's prescription to let you buy the medicine. Okay. What is the next word, Mr. Derill?
It's an adjective, and it's double-blind. Double-blind.
Double-blind is an adjective, and in Georgian it is ორმხრივად ბრმა. Can you give more light to this word? I mean, can you give us more details about the word?
Well, a double-blind is a study or trial, especially in medicine, in which two groups of people are studied. For example, one group who is taking a new drug and a second group who's taking something else, but neither the doctor nor the patients know which one is which.
So double-blind is an adjective, and in Georgian it's translated as ორმხრივად ბრმა. And we have an example here. There is a double-blind trial with 400 patients where 60% will get the drug and 40% will get a placebo. So double-blind means that neither the patients nor the doctors know which group of patients gets placebo and which gets the real medicine, right? Okay. Now let's move on, and the next word is trial. Trial is a noun, and in Georgian it means გამოცდა. And how would you define that word in English, Mr. Darrell?
In this situation, we're using trial in the following way. A test over a limited amount of time to discover how effective or suitable something is or someone is.
Okay, so trial, a noun, and in Georgian it is გამოცდა. And here is an example. The drug trial lasted for 2 years.
It's
and usually
time.
Vaccines
should take about 2 years.
Yeah, it should take about 2 years
or more
to prove that they really work, right? Okay. And what is the next word, Mr. Darrell?
It's a noun. Recovery. Recovery.
Recovery is a noun, and in Georgian it is გამოჯანმრთელება. So is it to get better after you've been ill?
Exactly, precisely. Recovery is when the process of getting better after an illness.
Okay, so it's a good thing, right? Okay. So recovery, it's a noun, and in Georgian it is გამოჯანმრთელება. And we have an example here. I wish you a quick recovery. It means I wish that you just recovered, get back to your previous health condition quickly. Okay. And the next word we have is treatment. Treatment is a noun, and in Georgian it is კურნალობა. Treatment. So how would you define that word, Mr.?
I'd say the following. The use of drugs, exercises, those kinds of things to cure a person after an illness or an injury.
Okay. Treatment, a noun, and in Georgian it is კურნალობა. And the example we have is the best treatment for colds is more vitamin C. Okay, yeah, I have heard about it.
You should definitely take more oranges.
Okay. Now let's move on, and the next word we have is healing. Healing is an adjective, and in Georgian it means samkurnalo. And how would you define that word, Mr. Derill?
Something that can make someone better. So a type of thing that somehow makes you better.
Okay, thank you. So healing, it's an adjective, and in Georgian it is samkurnalo. And here we have an example. Sleep has a healing power. Yes, I know a lot is said about it, but I don't think that anyone follows this instruction. But what about you, for example? Do you get enough sleep?
No, I don't think so. I think you're supposed to get 8 hours of sleep a day.
Yes.
I don't get 8 hours of sleep a day.
Okay, so you should. Okay. And I think that it's time to move to the reading section, because we are ready. We know all the words we need. But before we read a text, I want to tell you that the text is about the effect of placebo. So first of all, can you tell me what placebo means?
A placebo is a medicine that actually does not happen to work, and it's used in double-blind trials, for example.
Kind of fake one.
Yeah.
What is it used for? If it doesn't work?
It's to test the effectiveness of real medicine.
Okay, I got it, but I think that I need some more information about placebo. But I know one thing, just there are people who like taking medicine very much, and as soon as they drink some pills, they feel much better. For example, I have a friend who usually gets pills as soon as she has a headache, and after a minute she says that now she feels good and she has no headache anymore. And it's usually a surprising fact for me, because I know that a medicine cannot work in 1 minute. So I think that it's some kind of psychological thing. Okay, sometimes it helps psychologically. It's the effect of some influence of your maybe mood on your systems, and then just you are relieved of this pain or problems.
It's not connected to the actual medicine itself. It's more just a psychological trick
thing
you kind of play on yourself.
Okay, I agree with you. So that's why I think that sometimes placebo might also work. And I think that the text is about how it works and in what cases can placebo be used. For example, what do you think? Would prescribing a placebo be a good strategy for the following problems? For example, a life-threatening injury. Would it be a good idea to prescribe placebo?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. In a life-threatening injury situation.
Okay, and what about a mild headache?
Yes, I think that's extremely low in priority. I think you could use a placebo there.
Okay. Now let's read the text and find out more about its placebo and its effect. Many people go to the doctor's office when they are sick, and often they leave with a prescription. Most people do not ask questions about what's in the medicine the doctor has prescribed. Instead, they trust the doctors know what they are doing. They know about the rigorous medical training doctors must complete and the thorough examination process they have to go through. But how much does that help the healing process? What if, after filling their prescription and taking it as prescribed, patients found out that the medicine the doctor had given them was not a real drug, yet they get better? They trusted that they would get well after taking the medicine, so they did.
Wow, the power of the mind.
Yeah.
How can fake medicine help someone to get better? Sensory experience and thoughts can affect the brain, and the brain can affect other systems. Therefore, a person's optimism and hopefulness may be important to his physical recovery from an injury or sickness. Some experts believe that placebos, or fake medicines, simply cause a psychological response. In other words, taking them only enhances your sense of well-being. Today, before a drug can be approved, it must be tested and proven more effective than a placebo. Because both a patient's belief in the value of a treatment can affect its outcome, most drug trials are usually double-blinds, but also the doctors are unaware of who's receiving a placebo and who is receiving the real drug.
Okay, we've talked about double-blind method. Okay. Now let's move on. Almost all double-blind studies show some benefit to the people taking a placebo, but in actual clinical practice there is evidence that for some conditions, positive responses to a placebo may be as high as 80% to 90%. The reason is that in a real treatment, the placebo effect is enhanced by the doctors and the patient's expectations that the treatment will work. But the placebo effect does not happen only with fake medicines. Experts say the placebo effect is responsible for about a third of the benefits of any treatment, even carefully tested drugs. This means that even effective ones are enhanced by the power of positive thinking. As a result, doctors think they should prescribe placebo when it's appropriate and when the patient's health is not in danger.
So it should not be used for life-threatening illnesses.
Okay. We have finished the text, so we have to check how well we have understood and how well we remember what we've read. So for this we have statements and we have to decide whether the statements are true or false. And I will read the first statement for you. So a positive thinking about the treatment cannot have an influence on physical response. So what do you think? Is it true or false, Mr. Deril?
No, it's not true. It's false.
Yes, you are right, because we read almost all double-blind studies show some benefit to the people taking a placebo. But in actual clinical practice, there is evidence that for some conditions, positive responses to a placebo may be as high as 80% to 90%.
It's your turn, Ms. Thათია.
Okay, I will try.
Placebos are more effective than the real drug.
Oh no, it should be definitely false, because I remember we read, today, before a drug can be approved, it must be tested and proven more effective than a placebo. Right. Okay. And the next one for you, Mr. Deril. Doctors should have right to prescribe placebo for any health problem. Is it right?
No, I remember that was dangerous and they shouldn't do that.
Okay. Yes, we read. As a result, doctors think they should prescribe placebo when it is appropriate and when the patient's health is not in danger. Okay, so it's not appropriate for any case, right? And our next statement, and I will try.
Yes, placebos only work because of the doctor's and patient's expectations.
And this is true, I think, right? Okay, because I remember we read, the reason is that in a real treatment, the placebo effect is enhanced by the doctors and the patient's expectation that the treatment will work. Okay. And I think that we have finished with the reading part, and we have to move on to grammar part. And today's grammar topic is adverb clauses of concession and reduced adverb clauses of time. Now let's first of all talk about adverb clauses of concession. Adverb clauses of concession use words such as although, even though, whereas, and while to add contrasting information to a sentence. An adverb clause is a dependent clause and must go with a main clause with a subject and verb.
So they help out the sentence.
Yeah.
We use though, although, and even though to show ideas that are contrasting but related. For example, although he drank the painkiller, he doesn't feel good. We use whereas and while to compare two different people, things, or situations. For example, while polygraph measures stress, this new technology actually looks inside your brain.
Now let's move on to reduced adverb clauses of time. If an adverb clause of time has the same subject as the main clause, you can reduce the adverb clause by removing the subject and putting the verb in ing form. For example, while visiting the doctor, the patient got a lot of useful information. Here it's a reduced form. But here is another example. After the patient returned home, the doctor phoned him to find out how he felt. In this case, we cannot reduce the adverb clause, as the subject of the main and the subordinate clauses are different, right?
Different, yeah.
Okay. And I think that it's time to practice our grammar. And now we have sentences with two options, and we have to choose the right one. Okay, will you try?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me read it for you. He couldn't recover while or even though the doctors did everything they could. I think that this sentence shows some kind of contrast, yeah?
Mm-hmm. You're right.
Contrastive ideas. So how would you, which word would you choose here?
Very good. And I would choose even though.
And you are right. He couldn't recover even though the doctors did everything they could.
I think it's your turn, Ms. Thათия.
Of course, I'm always ready, as you know.
Some people can look you right in the eyes. Now you have two choices, though or while, lying to you.
And I know the answer. Here I would choose while. Some people can look you right in the eyes while lying to you, which is a very bad thing, right? Okay, and now it's your turn, and we have the sentence like this. After or though failing the first test, the researchers started a new trial. Mm-hmm. So what do you think, which one would be right here?
It's got to be after.
And you're right, of course. After failing the first test, the researchers started a new trial.
Mm-hmm. Your turn.
Yes, I'm ready.
Some of the studies show positive results. Now you have two choices, whereas or though. Others do not.
And I know the answer. Here I would use whereas. Some of the studies show positive results, whereas others do not. And
Correct.
I think that we have finished with the grammar part 2, and it's time to wrap up the lesson.
Mm-hmm. As you remember, we spoke about vocabulary related to the reading and the theme, which is medicine. We looked at placebos in the reading, and we looked at grammar that was particularly about adverbs, adverb clauses of concession.
Okay, very interesting. And I think it's time for homework now. What is the homework for today, Mr. Deril?
Well, we'd like you to write a report about patient care.
Okay, very interesting one.
And send it to the address you see on the screen right now.
Okay. And I think that it's time to finish the lesson, Mr. Deril.
Yes, you've been very helpful as our expert on medicine.
Okay, I'm far from expert.
Well, you're both your grandmothers, your mother, your uncle.
Yeah, but I'm not a doctor, although I'm very much interested in this area. Mm. Okay, so I think that we have to finish. We have to ask our audience to stay with us and keep on learning.
We'll come back for more medicine next time. Have a great week.
So bye.
Goodbye.